Hi everyone. Hope you're doing well and hopefully your September was reading month was actually quite good. For me, I feel like I read so many like lovely books that also made me kind of think a bit more and it was actually quite nice. So I ended up reading a staggering number of 12 books. And so the first book that I actually ended up reading, I'm reading off my journal again of all the books I read, was Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler. Quite frankly, this book was definitely something I was not expecting. So essentially, in the first half of the book, we basically are following this young girl who is supposedly young at the beginning, who wakes up not knowing where they're from, their name, nothing, and things. There's like a series of events because within the book, all the so-called vampire-ish people have like a symbiotic relationship with their not really no won't say like spouses, but like the people that they feed off to be able to survive, and a lot of things goes haywire from there. Quite frankly, the premise of the book was interesting. I just couldn't really get past the bit where our main protagonist is essentially in the body of a 12-year-old but is 52, and I was just like, could you not have made her a bit older? Or also like the relationship she's having with all these people who are visibly a lot older than her, and the characters within the books infatuation with saying how tiny and little and all this type of thing. I was just like, ugh. But despite that, I actually still really liked the book. If you could like remove that bit, the book could have easily, to me, been like a multiple series instead of just being a standalone. So I ended up giving it a 3.75. Fair enough, it could have been 4 stars for me, purely on the premise of the book, not really the bit where they are just have a thing for the protagonist being very young. The next book that I ended up reading was The Last Dragon King by Leah Stone. So it's basically about this. To me, the book was actually quite good to a certain extent. So basically, we're following how in this kingdom there's like a dragon. The people that are ruling are dragons, and so the man, or rather the king has had like issues because like he's gone through a lot of miscarriages. All of his wives never survive, and then the main premise of it is that he is kind of like slightly insta lovey as well, because she meets him, she falls in love, bear his kids, yada yada yada. And I was just thinking the entire time in the book, don't get me wrong, the book wasn't bad, but I was just thinking the reason why you couldn't, like, apart from all those other things that's going on, if your family didn't kill her family off, I think maybe that would have been the difference. But it was okay. Then I also read The House of Hunger by Alexi Henderson. And so this is basically about this one girl who, in order to escape the life that she's living right now and also escape her abusive brother that is falling from grace per se, she ends up becoming a blood maid, which is essentially kind of like a blood bank for vampires, because for some reason blood is seen as some type of medicinal thing, so that all the like nobility or richer people are able to survive. And there's a lot of things going on. It's also sapphic, and to me, I feel like if we had explored a bit more, it would also be something that could have easily been like a duology, but as a standalone. But it's still very good. I ended up giving that one 3.25. Then I read The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, and I actually quite enjoyed this book. We're basically following our main protagonist, who is a librarian, and from the get-go in the book, the library is burning off, so therefore she runs away with her succulent plants, also sentient, but also has this like problem where he has a lot of anxiety, and it was kind of amusing to actually watch him have that much, like, not really the anxiety bit, but like him just being like the voice of reason, and like a lot of things are going on. There's also romance. And did I also mention, for some reason, the girl in this book in The Spell Shop is blue, which I was just like, honestly, you could even remove all the fantastical elements. It was just like a very cozy read, and I actually quite enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And I also found out that the author is also going back into the world, and next year we're getting a book about one of the characters that was mentioned in The Spell Shop, and it has a sentient house, and I was just like, oh my god, I can't wait. And then afterwards, I read this book here. I ended up getting this one off of secondhand shop, but I really loved it. It's something I'm gonna definitely reread again next year. Is Welcome to the Hyungmangdong Bookshop by Hyung Bum Rim. Yeah. And so basically, we're following this one woman who is at the beginning of the book, I believe she's either 27 or 28, and so she basically comes off from a marriage that she wasn't really happy in, and so therefore, because of like she has nothing really to lose and she has quite a bit of savings, says that okay, you know what, let me open up a bookshop. And by opening up the bookshop, it becomes like this like hub for the community that she goes into. And we're basically not only following her and her struggles, but we're also following multiple people who are become like staples in the bookshop, that love to come there to read, or they love like the coffee. And it was very wholesome, and also saying how it's okay to not know what you're actually doing with your life, and also it's okay to like do things differently and not how society deems it. And it was quite sweet. I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. Quite frankly, this could be a 5-star read for me, but maybe it's if I read it like really engross it and put more time with the book. But it was still a very lovely book to read. Then the next one I read, quite frankly, scared the shit out of me half of the time because I was reading it in the evening. It's The Sacrifice by Rin Chapeko. So essentially in this book, we are following this one boy who lives on a deserted island with his father, and then this like camera crew is just like, oh my god, there are people that die on this island constantly, let's just film a movie, we're not gonna find anything. And oh boy, do they find a lot of things that they were not supposed to see. And essentially there's also like, because they don't really consider themselves a boy really, and it was interesting. I gave it 3 stars. Then the next book I ended up reading was slightly disturbing, I'm not even gonna lie. It's called Sister Maiden Monster by Lucy A. Sander. And so it's following the events of after COVID, like the earth as we know it today. Every blessed year there's always some kind of new virus. Basically is a biohazard everywhere. And you think that, okay, that's fine, nothing's gonna go wrong like that. So our main protagonist, because we're following 3 women within the story, our main protagonist, okay, not really main, but one of the 3 women that we follow, she, on the day that her boyfriend, or more or less her fiance, proposes to her, she gets infected and things go haywire from there. She's actually changing into some sort of like angel-ish thing. And not like the ones that we know, though, like the pretty people with like the wings. No, the real ones where they have like multiple like wings, like a big ass eye, which I was just like, scary. And then we're also following another woman who basically had a very hard life and therefore enjoys the idea of killing. And the third one who is basically every single time they're always sick about, not really sick about, but sick with something, and so they are supposed to become like the mother to this apocalyptic thing that's going on. And it was freaky, and I wasn't expecting it because I went into the book completely blind, and it was concerning. I feel like this book is supposed to be like multiple series, but I'm not sure, maybe it's just a standalone, but it was very interesting. Then I also read like Payback's a Witch by Lena Harper, and it was quite frankly quite sweet. So basically we're following this one woman who is a witch, but she leaves her city because of like an event that happened when she was a teenager. And so when she comes back to the village, she ends up seeing the guy that broke her heart, douche. And then there's also this one person that she used to see in secondary school that was like a few years above her, and there's like a love, and also like basically they form a coven to get back at the douchebag. And it was kind of interesting, and I thought it was actually quite sweet. I gave it 4 stars. Then the next one is The Name Bearer by Natalia Hernandez. So basically in this book, it's a multiple series one, is YA. So we're basically following this one girl who, before the age of 4 years old, a child will be born, which they will take away from their family, and basically is stripped of their name, their culture, anything that basically makes them their own individual person. They're stripped of it and basically groomed to become a name bearer, because they have like all these like magical like flowers that basically prophesies and gives like good fortune to the ruling family. And so therefore things are going horrifically wrong when when it's finally time for her, when she's like 12, 13, to finally have like a name, give it to the prince who's going to be the future king, only to find out, oh, the so-called prince is not the actual prince. And it's just like, oh shit, if he's not the prince that the queen gave birth to and the king's dead, who the hell is the prince? And then a lot of things go from there, and she ends up going to like this warrior nun coven, and it goes from there. I actually quite liked it. I gave it Because it's like it's the first book in the series, I just gave it like 3 stars, but I feel like going forward it might actually be very, very good. And then the next one I read, it took me a while to get into this one. I feel like it's also like something I need to actually reread again, is The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Phil Fall. So we're basically, it's a collection of multiple stories that is interwoven with one another, of women from church and like the different struggles of like getting married, not getting married, their relationship with women, also like the things that happen with like also their beliefs and everything like that. There's a lot of sapphic characters there that maybe don't even end up going out with the women or loving the women that they as they wanted to. And I ended up giving this one 3.25. I feel like it's something I still need to reread again, but it was actually quite good. This one that I ended up reading is called Outdrawn by Dina Gray, and it's basically about these two women who were rivals in university, and one of them is obviously like a few years above them, and they are both basically both in art, and they do like animation, comics, different types of things. Very nerdy, very interesting, very cute, and it's how like their so-called rivalry goes from enemies to like reluctant co-workers to lovers. Quite frankly, in the entire book I just felt there was miscommunication because they didn't really actually hate each other, and I still gave that one 4 stars. It was actually quite cute. The reason I ended up giving 4 stars because of like the ending just was so sweet and it's sapphic. So yeah, finally I feel like this keeps on just changing constantly. The next one I ended up reading was Natural Beauty by Ling Hyung. So in this one, you have to imagine the main protagonist's family leaves China to come into America because they wanted like a better life, and also because of the things that were going on within the book. And so our main protagonist like one day ends up like, because she like her family really loved piano. They used to be like very good pianists when they were back home, but like when they come here, because of like America, everything is a lot harder and they have to like make sure they are able to provide for themselves, even though going multiple days of providing for our main protagonist, but also them not actually eating, like starving and different types of things. So one day our main protagonist ends up getting sponsored by an unknown person, where they say that, okay, I will finance, or they will finance your entire education to become a pianist. However, you have to leave your family, everything that you know, and things go haywire from there, because she's obviously like a very good pianist, but also has like loads of chunks of her life that she doesn't remember. And then also you have to imagine how society would be if there is no wars, nothing like that. Everyone's most concern is the pursuit of beauty. So how far are you willing to go to be perceived as beautiful? How much of yourself and your culture and basically everything that quintessentially makes you you, how far of it are you willing to just, take away, do something completely different just to be perceived as beautiful? And it just ends up becoming a lot of more horror, and also like the relationships within one another of all the characters. I was just like, rah, that is actually quite weird, really. I still gave it 4 stars. It was interesting. And the last book I read was The Truth According to Amber by Danica Nava. So basically, Amber, and the main protagonist, lies on a CV to get a job, and everything goes completely haywire from there, because purely on the things that she went through as a child, she just says, okay, you know what, let me just lie about everything. And most of the times I'm just thinking like, you could have made your life so much more easier if you could, if you didn't have to lie as much, but however, keep track of how many lies you've told, because some of the things I'm just like, really? You did not know you're not supposed to do that? Really? But I mean, it was a part of the plot. It was still okay. I still gave the book like, purely on the plot wise, I didn't really care for it. I would say like 3 stars. However, purely the characters within themselves, even the ones that you don't really like, I still gave 4 stars. But more or less, it's gonna be a 3.5 for me. And so now I'm gonna be doing all the books I want to read for October. I'm actually in the middle of one of them actually. So I plan on reading quite a bit of the books actually. So I have an outrageous stack of books again this month. So the first one is, I showed this last time, but I'm almost done with it, to be fair, is The Fall That Saved Us by Tara Jagri. So it's basically about this one nymphium and succubus, and basically a lot of things are going on. It is sapphic. Then I also plan on reading the Maid and the Crocodile. This is also within the same universe as the Ray Bearer, and apparently this one is whimsical and also African mythology, with a hint of apparently supposed to be as whimsical as like Ghibli movies, which I think was intriguing. Afterwards, I do plan on reading this one. This one I just saw on TikTok very quickly, and I was just like, you know what? It is queer monsters and people with different types of gender expressions. I was just like, okay, cool. Like, why not? It's Monster Mixer by Robin Joe Gargret. So it's a very short novella. It's like less than 100 pages. So I believe I can finish this one in a day. Then also Voodoo Presents Reliving Mythology, a collection of black magical stories and poetry by multiple authors. It's like an anthology, and I thought like it is not based with West African mythologies. Every other place in Africa, maybe a few West African ones, but I was just like, I should read more mythology that is not centered in West Africa, because most of my mythology that I read from Africa are from West Africa. And then also this is also an anthology by the same author of The Fall That Saved Us. This is a vision of moonlights and other stories. I think it's because we're in October. I just feel like, ooh, let's get into the witchy feeling. You get what I'm saying? And then Benti, I got this one secondhand, and it's for some reason it's from like a library, but I just thought, you know what, let's get into this one as well. So Benti. Then we have this one. This is on more of an honorable mention. This is In the Care of Magic by Robin Joe Margaret. Then another one of this one here, A Wolf Steep in Blood. Because this one is more about like a werewolf and a witch and a sapphic. Then this other one is Tin Man by Sarah Winman. I hope to reread. Probably I just want to annotate this one. This is Chain Gang All Star by Nana Kwame and J. Brenya. And I already read this earlier this year, but I just want to annotate it. And then I have Friday Black by Nana Kwame J. Brenya as well. It's more of an anthology of about, I believe, 8 stories. Then these two here is Our Lonely Planet Travel Guide. Both of these ones is basically about these two high school friends who become lovers, and they have like this one thing that for 1 year they're gonna travel the world, and I believe it's because also one of them was also ill for a very long time, and so this is like kind of like a celebration kind of thing. Then I also want to read A Cup of Sake Beneath the Cherry Tree. It's like another classic. And then the last book, I did show this last time, but it is an anthology of black lesbian thoughts, Mouth Rain, and it's edited by Brianna Simon Jones. This one as well. So yeah, that's all the books that I do plan on reading. Anyway, thank you so much if you're still around, and have a good one. Yeah, bye.